Many traders measure risk like a weather forecast. What's the chance of a storm? But what if the real question is simpler? How much of your account is currently at risk? In this market measures segment, we focus on buying power reduction to put structure around outlier risk across different volatility ranges. Here's the surprise. When IV goes up, BPR often goes down. Interestingly, even during COVID volatility, losses stayed below 100% of BPR. Stay tuned. This episode is about measuring risk the way traders experience it.
No, we're measuring risk the trader's way. How does a trader measure risk? What do you do?
Size.
Size matters?
Size matters. We've been trying to tell them that it doesn't. They've been right all along. Size matters.
Yeah. All relative.
It's all relative. It's all relative.
You do measure it on size. I think that's...
Is that what they're going to come up with? Because I haven't seen this yet.
Well, yes.
Awesome. Yes. Good job on me.
Measuring risk the trader's way. Let's do it. So when we assess outlier risk on our positions here through metric derived from historical data, such as likelihood of a loss exceeding 2 times the initial credit, so this is our CVaR metric, which is in the platform, we're essentially averaging across various market conditions and levels of volatility. So, CVaR is a good way to kind of measure your tail risk scenario. And that's on the platform. You can get that for your positions on entry.
Yes.
Well, that's
do you look at your CVaR?
No. No.
You look at your buying power, right?
I think after a certain amount of time, you understand what your tail risk is. Sure. Like if you sell puts on Apple at the 200 strike, what's your tail risk? 140, 150, 160. I mean, that's where it was.
On the stock price,
On the stock price. You kind of intuitively, at least that's where you intuitively quantify it as tail risk. Can it go lower? Of course. But, if you're 30 or 40 points in the money on Apple in the downside, it's probably like your least bad.
And remember, we're not doing this into perpetuity. You're doing this over the next, 30 to 60 days.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, exactly. So while those approaches and while that value is great, it gives you the tail risk, but it doesn't give you your kind of more reasonable risk, which is really what we're going to kind of talk about here. How do you measure a reasonable risk over your, Apple could go to $100, but how reasonable is that in the next 35 days? It's very, very it's a lot less likely than it is in the next 5 years. That's kind of the difference in trading and option trading versus, longer term investing, so to speak. You're always going to have the fatter tail on a longer time horizon than you do on a 30-day time horizon.
That's correct. Apple over the next 1,100 days doesn't even have a $100 expected move. Stock is 260. So you're right.
So looking at the next slide here, buying power is really how we look at this risk. So buying power may be one of the more reliable metrics when establishing expectations for your outlier risk. Again, this is how the broker and the financial system gauges risk is by buying power. Now, those things can change, and we're also going to talk about that as well. Although buying power doesn't indicate the probability of incurring a loss of a certain magnitude, it does give us an accurate representation of the amount of total risk that is reasonable to expect on a position. And so how can buying power be used to analyze how well it encompasses risk on a trade-by-trade basis? Really, we're going to look at how accurate is buying power from gauging risk on your position, and how does that change with implied volatility is kind of the second part of our analysis today.
Do it.
No thoughts out of you?
What's that?
You didn't want to chime in?
No. You did an excellent job. Nobody could read a slide like you.
Sounded a little backhand.
It wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be. I just can't believe. Well, volatility down 67 cents. You should kind of believe it. How little movement we've had. Really had about a 5-handle move since the opening.
It's the gap and nap.
The gap and nap 0-day working like a charm. Yes. Yep, we've avoided it the last 2 days.
Yes. So the study that we're going to look at is 16 delta strangles. We're doing that in SPY. We're looking at 2020 to present. So we're doing 45 days and then managed at 21 days. And then for different IV ranges, we're determining the percentage of the loss that exceeded the buying power. And then we're looking at calculating the average buying power for each across the implied volatility regimes. We're looking at like different IV ranks, how much buying power you're using, and we're comparing the results as IV changes. So as IV increases, how does buying power change? How does your max loss change, relative to that change in implied volatility?
Good.
So when we look at every implied volatility regime here, and so you're looking at IV from 0 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and 40 plus. This is on SPY, just for context. SPY current implied volatility sitting at about 15 to 17%. So we are in the first bucket here. But when we look at every IV level, the buying power encompasses nearly all the losses for early managed contracts. So if you're managing positions for 50% of the max profit or 21 days, you're taking off a lot of the outlier occurrences because you're just cycling through these trades. You're rolling into a new position that's 45 days out that encompasses the current implied volatility, the current stock price, all those things. So you're certainly reducing risk by that metric, but the key takeaway here is that buying power is reflecting more than the max loss that you're getting on these positions. So it is, really a relatively reasonable way to measure your 30-day outlier risk. You just look at buying power. The total amount of capital at risk is roughly capped by the total portfolio buying power allocated. So, when you're looking at buying power, that it gives you an idea of like your risk on these trades. Zero occurrences of losses exceeding the buying power across all strategies and IV environments. So, even when volatility was really high, the buying power reflected the loss potential.
Yeah, it works.
Yes.
That's what it comes down to. I mean, let's think about it. Brokerage firm is going to take, $1 from you in commissions. They're going to look at their risk numbers at nauseam, and they got to look at them and say, I want more money to hold than my risk because I'm taking $1 for all of your risk. So
yeah,
sure.
Exactly.
Yep. The model works.
Yes. So getting on to this next slide here. So this is kind of looking at outlier risk. So defining outlier risk by the total amount of capital that may be lost at any given time, rather than by the likelihood of such an event happening, emphasizes why it's essential to always maintain responsible portfolio exposure. So when you're looking at this chart, what it's telling you is that your buying power has represented the max loss. This is what percentage of that buying power was realized across these different deltas. So, you do have the key here, and that a lot of people get into is like, okay, so I see this, you have more loss on the 30 delta. Let's do the 10 delta. If you're doing them 1-to-1, you're correct. The 10 delta is going to have a lesser loss because it's further out of the money, less intrinsic value. What people get caught up with is that they say, okay, well, I can do 2 of the 10 deltas versus 1 of the 30 deltas. Why not just do the 10 deltas? This will tell you that you're going to have a lot bigger loss on the 2 contracts of the 10 delta versus the 1 contract of the 30 delta. So yes, it's further out of the money and higher pop and less risk on entry, but the actual dollar amount that you're going to lose is going to be a lot more on the 10 deltas versus the 1 contract 30 delta or whatever multiple you're trading in there. And that's what this is showing you, because you have to multiply the loss by the amount of contracts.
Exactly. Yep, you got it. And you know what? This is where we come down to size kills too, because once you start going to your that lower delta, you're actually using less buying power. That buying power can change, not like not like it can change exponentially in a futures option, but it can change as you get closer to the money too. So you have that issue also. 1 contract versus 2, or 1 versus 4, etc.
Yes. So getting on to the next slide here. So this is another really good slide. So as IV rises, buying power generally demonstrates a tendency to decrease and approximate the worst case and the approximately worst case loss as well. So when you have higher buying power or higher volatility, your buying power actually tends to decrease, and that's a function of typically lower prices in the asset itself. When you get a 40 IV in SPY is not going to be at 700. It's going to be at 600 or 550. So you have a lower priced asset, but you're also way further out on the curve. So this is another reason why we look for high volatility environments, is because you're typically at lower prices and you're going further out of the money relative. So the 20 delta option, let's say for a 0 to 20 IV range, might be $10 out of the money. For a 40 IV range, it's going to be 40 points out of the money, and it's going to be a lower priced stock. So the percentage move is also going to be way further out of the money relative to where your stock is. So the buying power decreases as the IV increases because of the lower underlying price, but also the high volatility. And also buying power decreases as delta moves further out of the money. So like you're getting further out of the money, less capital to put the trade on, and relatively less risk because that position is way further out of the money.
That you're 100% correct. You really kind of summed it up very well. I don't think I have too much to add to this. I mean, risk is always something that everybody talks about, especially newer traders really kind of hone in on
risk aspect.
On risk aspect of this. It's like anything that you do.
It's risk and max profit. Nobody's looking for like the small in the middle.
That's right.
It's tails.
And that's where you live. You live in that small in the middle. Like when you're taking profits and taking losses, you live 96% of the time in that small little thing, and you don't think about that. So I love looking at risk, but you really should be concentrating on maximizing your gains by managing trades early. Now I know
and by managing trades, you're reducing that risk.
That's correct.
That's another piece.
That's correct. That's correct. So I don't really dive into risk that much, the way that we do here. But I understand why we do.
Yep.
Next slide, please.
So on the next slide here, this confirms that the outlier risk under our definition of buying power decreases as IV increases, and shows the utility of scaling portfolio allocation up when IV is high. It allows you not only to have more short volatility, but the actual buying power that you're using on your positions decreases significantly. That's why we're always looking for that high IV environment. Right. That said, if you're starting at 20 and you get to 40, the position is going to move against you. So that's another reason why when volatility is low, we're constantly talking about, being lighter on positions, a little bit more defined risk, diagonal spreads, stuff where you don't have this outlier risk, because if you have the trade on at 0 to 20 IV and it costs you $10,000 to hold the position, and then you get to a point where volatility is at 40, again, you're probably talking about, SPY going from 700 to 600, and your short option that's on the put side is going to be, 70, 80 points in the money. And so that's where the risk comes into play. And that's where your buying power expansion, hurts you. And that's why, again, volatility is low, you're putting on the brakes a little bit.
That's right. You're putting on the brakes a little bit. That's a good way of saying it.
And so this table shows the average buying power with implied volatility for different IV ranges. So when your IV is higher, buying power going to be lesser, and that's a function of the stock price reflecting lower prices as well.
Good job out of the team. Let's sum it all up, please.
So a couple takeaways here. 0 trades exceeded the buying power across all the trades per strategy. So this is a small data set, but just gives you an idea. And there's a lot that has happened in this 5-year data set. There's been big whippy markets, and so buying power has been reliable even in the COVID crash. Buying power drops 35 to 40% from low to high IV. So that move in implied volatility, when you're looking at what's the buying power on like a SPY put right now, I guess we're portfolio margin, but it's probably going to use $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 right now to put on that put. When buying power expands, that goes to 5,000 or 6,000.
Right.
So,
same strike you're talking about.
Same strike. Yep. They're same delta.
Same delta.
Different strikes.
Of course.
So the worst loss hit 92% of the buying power, and that was in February to March of 2020. So we're talking about like the heat of COVID. You know, that buying power, it gives you an accurate reflection of your risk. Buying power estimates total capital at risk for current market conditions, making it a more reliable outlier risk measure than probabilities alone. And even if you're looking at CVaR, that's telling you like telltale, like duty hitting the fan risk. You know, more realistic risk like COVID, you know, which I would even consider a tail type event.
I consider it a tail type event too. I mean, any unknown like that has to be a tail.
You're talking about like black swan, like, you know, Michael Burry trades is a CVaR.
Yep.
Thanks for watching. If you want more context and more ways to think about markets, check out more of our videos. And don't forget, give us a like, comment, subscribe, and watch Tasty Live.